Hello, everyone. In this lecture, we are going to learn about another ROI methodology called internal rate of return. So what is the internal rate of return? Well, it's similar to net present value. And instead of assuming a discount rate, you compare the internal rate of return to the company's hurdle rate. So what's the company's hurdle rate? Well, it can sometimes be the weighted average cost of capital, or if a company borrows money at 4%, you would want the internal rate of return to be better than that, right? So how to figure out the hurdle rate? It's best to ask the finance department or CFO of your organization what the company's hurdle rate is. And the internal rate of return makes the net present value equal to 0, which is the break-even point for the investment. So how do we do this? So we're going to use the same assumptions that we did for NPV. We've got a discount rate of 5%, and my initial investment is $50,000, and these are my cash flows for the next 5 years from that initial investment. So instead of doing this by hand, what we're going to do is we're going to use Excel, and we're going to select formulas, financial, and then on this down arrow, you're going to click on that and scroll down until you see NPV. Once you select the NPV function, this dialog box will open up, and it's going to ask you for the rate and the value. Your rate is going to be your discount rate, and the value will be all of your cash flows, not the initial investment. So let's see what that looks like. So in the rate, I enter in 5 because that was my discount rate. Values, I'm taking the sum of my cash inflows, and then I'm going to hit OK. So the present value of these future cash flows will equal $53,005, right? So that's the quick way of finding the net present value, the present value of these future cash flows. So to find the NPV, I take the present value of my future cash flows, I minus my initial investment of $50,000, and my NPV is $3,005. That means this investment is going to return $3,005 to the organization. It's not a negative number, and therefore you would accept this project. Now I want to find out my internal rate of return. So again, we're going to go back to Excel. You click on, any cell within your spreadsheet. You go to formulas, you click on financial, and then for the drop down, you're going to look for IRR. And once you do, you'll see the IRR function argument box appears. And in this case, you need your values. And for the internal rate of return, instead of just taking your cash inflows, you're going to take everything. You're going to take your initial investment and your cash flows, and that will be your values. And then you click OK. And that gives me an internal rate of return of 7.21, right? So should this project be accepted or rejected? Well, my internal rate of return is higher than my discount rate, so I'm going to accept this project. So you want to change, you want to be able to check your calculations, and you want to make sure that your NPV is equal to 0. So what I've done here is that discount rate, I've changed that to the IRR rate. And in doing so, notice that my NPV is equal to 0. Break-even point, which means we are going to accept this project. So in this lecture, Here's what we've learned. The internal rate of return is just yet another methodology that businesses can use to determine the rate of investment for a project, or ROI. The results are to compare the discount rate to the company's hurdle rate, and the IRR should make the NPV, the net present value, equal to 0, which is the break-even point for the project. If the IRR rate is higher than the discount rate, the project should be accepted. And you need to go through 2 steps. First, to figure out the IRR, first you have to calculate the NPV value, and then you have to calculate the IRR value. And again, if IRR value is higher than your discount rate, you're going to accept the project.